Hey everybody, welcome to our celebration of Holy Week. After Jesus experiences a moment of praise and adoration with his mission in mind, he actually looks over the city of Jerusalem and he sees the Temple Mount towering over the city. And he's going to make it there here in the future in our story. But in Luke chapter 19, Jesus begins to cry. He's fully aware that his death is imminent, but his tears aren't for the pain that's to come. It's not for what's about to happen to him. Rather, he's crying over the hearts of his people. In Luke chapter 19, verse 42, this is what he says as he's crying. If you, even you, he's talking about Jerusalem and his people, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it's hidden from your eyes. And then he goes on to prophesy about something pretty terrible, the destruction of the temple, this symbol of God's presence and power, a symbol that at one point declared that God himself would dwell with his creation. But because of corruption and greed and the lust for power, God's symbol of grace had unfortunately become a roadblock to his presence. And instead of being a blessing, or instead of the people experiencing blessing, they would experience loss. It's this grief that actually fuels Jesus' righteous anger as he enters the temple and begins to clean house. We find it in Mark 11:17. This is what he says. Is it not written that my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations? But you've made it a den of robbers. His Father's house had become poisoned by the very people who were supposed to reflect God's love to the world. Jesus' words actually come straight out of Isaiah chapter 56:7. This is what it says. These I will bring to my holy mountain and give them joy in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for what? All nations. You see, God's temple was supposed to be a place where everyone could experience his presence, but the religious elites had made it so difficult for people to commune with him to the point where you had to buy your sacrifice at the temple, and it was at outrageous prices so that it made God's grace virtually inaccessible to the poor. And with the money changers being in the outer courts, the Gentiles couldn't experience God's presence either. It's interesting to imagine Jesus flipping over tables in anger, but let's not forget that behind that righteous anger was a deep grieving that the temple had in many ways placed his presence just out of reach of the poor and the Gentiles who believed in Yahweh for the sake of greed. When we think about what Christ did for us, let us remember that behind everything is God's desire to bring anyone who would come into his presence into a relationship with him. God doesn't hate you or anyone. He wants to clear out anything that would stop you from drawing close to him. So as we place our attention on what's going to be happening this coming up week, let us remember that Jesus on the cross and Jesus resurrected draws every person into his presence. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow.